see you. Are we good to start talking immediately? Have you got that one as well?
Hello. Okay, do I have a clicker? Thank you. So you'll have to excuse me because I'm reading the notes off my phone as well. But hello, I'm Siobhan. It's nice to be here, slightly terrifying. So I've been making games for about a year, not commercially, just as a hobby. I'm not a programmer, I'm not an artist. And today what I'm going to talk to you about is the tools that I used in my first year of game development and the first game that I made with each tool. Hopefully. So before I start, I kind of want to cover why I'm talking about this in the first place. Around this time last year, maybe a little bit earlier, I started going to a lot more games talks, and things like VideoBrains, also things like Feral Vector and Amaze and Pop-Up Arcade and that kind of thing. And I started getting more and more inspired to make games, but I kind of felt like there were these barriers and these preconceptions that I had about what a game developer was, and I think we can probably all imagine what that preconception might be. But so the main barriers, really, the first one was that I'm not game developer material. I'm not a programmer, I'm not an artist, I didn't grow up learning to code, and I kind of thought that only a certain type of person could make games, someone who was very creative and logical and intelligent. So I kind of thought I can do it. And the other reason, I have to find a better way to do this. The other reason, really, I think, was that I felt like I didn't have anything interesting or important enough to say to warrant making a game and to warrant asking someone to spend time on a game that I'd made. I still do this with the things that I make. I did this with this talk and had to cut it down by about 20 minutes. So hopefully what I can do is kind of prove that neither of these things really matter, and I think that's what I proved to myself. I used a whole bunch of tools. All of these. You might recognise some of them. I don't know what percentage of the room has made games before, but I will talk about all of them in a bit more detail. The first game I made was called Go Home You Are Drunk. Go Home You Are Drunk is a text adventure game about trying to get home from the pub when you've had too much to drink. So you leave the pub, you sort of shuffle your way towards the bus stop, you get on the bus, and depending on where you tell the bus driver you want to go will change the outcome of the game, and you can decide whether you want to go to the kebab shop or the newsagents on the way home, that kind of thing. I made this game primarily just to teach myself how to use Twine, because someone had told me that Twine was really easy to use, and I didn't believe them because it's a game development tool, can't be easy to use. Twine is really easy to use. So simple, like I knocked this out in an afternoon having never made a game before. It's really, really simple, it's really fun. All you do is, click on words and they take you to other words. Actually, that's what Twine does. Some people have done some really cool stuff with it, but it's really that simple. There's a really good community around Twine as well. If you have any interest in storytelling, I really, really recommend using Twine just to try and make a game because it's really fun. The next game I made is called Eat Soup. This is a game about eating soup. So you can see here, if you eat soup, but you don't use your spoon correctly, you spill your soup. If you eat the soup and you do use your spoon correctly, you win. That's the entire game, that GIF. That's all that happens. This is made in a tool called Flick Game. Flick Game is my favourite game development tool that exists on the internet, or in fact anywhere. It's a little bit like Twine, I suppose, but instead of clicking on words, you're clicking on colours. So as long as you click on blue, it will take you down to the bowl emptying. If you click on any colour other than blue, it will take you to the fail state. It's that simple. It's in browser, the tool itself, and it's a little bit like MS Paint. The tool itself was made by Stephen Lavelle, who made Stephen's Sausage Roll. He's made loads of really cool tools, actually. I'm going to talk about another one of his in just a second, which is a tool called PuzzleScript. This is PuzzleScript. This is a game called Pop Crushers that I made, in which you play a janitor working in the warehouse of a Candy Crush style match 3 game. So all of the gems that get crushed, or the gems that get dropped, end up in the warehouse, and you're the janitor that has to clean them up. And while you're cleaning them up, your boss is sort of shouting at you, and it's just like, I hate Pop Crush, it's the worst game ever. And there are all these little things, like if you're trying to tidy up by matching the gems together, making them disappear, and you say you match 4 gems, your boss gets really angry because you're getting ideas above your station at that point. Really, all he wants you to do is match 3 and clean up so that you can go home. PuzzleScript, again, it's made by Stephen Lavelle. Again, it's in browser and it's totally free, and it doesn't really require any coding. None of these tools require any programming really. It's got its own code, and most of it is based on ASCII art. And what's really nice about this, actually, you can see the hack at the bottom of the screen. So any game that you play that was made in PuzzleScript, you can click on hack, and it will show you the internal workings of that game, so that you can play with it and like remix the game itself, or you can pull things out to make your own game with it and that kind of thing. It's really, really cool and fun. Yeah, I still don't really understand puzzle design at all, but I know how to make something about a janitor in that, so that's good. So the next game I made was kind of different. This is Raising Agents. This is a point-and-click crime procedural game. I've been watching a lot of Criminal Minds at this point. So I made a point-and-click procedural crime game about a detective called Agent Cutie Pie, who is on the search for a dangerous killer who always leaves the victim with a mouthful of plain flour. This game is mostly bread-based puns, to be honest with you. It's definitely more pun than gameplay. But it's really cool, and the tool itself is amazing. Scratch is actually made for children, to teach children how to code. A good friend of mine actually said that this was the most narratively ambitious Scratch game she had ever played, and I think I'm going to have narratively ambitious put on my headstone. It's pretty good. But it's made for children. It's designed to teach kids coding in school, and it sort of provides you with the building blocks of code. Quite literally, actually, when you go into it, you can hit C inside, a little bit like the hack button on PuzzleScript. You can hit C inside up the top, and then you can see the inner workings of the game. And it's all like Lego blocks of code that you can detach and then put together and make a game like that. It's really good, very satisfying. I have 2 nephews who are learning how to use Scratch in primary school at the moment, and they are just fascinated by the fact that I even know what Scratch is. So if you have children in your life, learn how to use Scratch and they'll be really impressed. This was made for Make Play Code, which is a game development workshop for women in Brighton. And it was made as a sort of precursor to learning how to use another game tool called Unity, which some of you may have heard of. So I made a game in Unity for a game jam, actually. And the theme of the game jam was the phrase, "Without community, there can be no liberation." So I made, with a couple of friends, a game about rescuing animals from the zoo. You can see our zoo scene here, it's lovely. We've got the penguins, the elephant, the lion, and the giraffe. They were all made in SketchUp, so they're all a little bit square. But that's fine. So the idea was that you would go around to the animals and you would talk to them about, they'd sort of give you riddles and they'd give you a clue. They'd give you a clue about where the key was to open their cage doors. And then you'd go and find the key and you'd let the animals out. And we only had 2 days to make this game, so it didn't quite do what we wanted it to do. I'm going to show you a quick video, if that's possible. I might need someone to help me though, of what happened, because it was quite satisfying. So how can I? Thank you.
I didn't put this in a convenient place. Like, it's here, it's just behind like 6 layers of stuff.
Oh, that's it. That's it there. Cool, thank you. If I click this, is it going to? Oh, you can. So basically, when you found the key, we couldn't set it up. We didn't have the skills basically to set it up so that the animals' cages opened. All we could do was make it so that when you collected the key, the animals' cages disappeared. Unfortunately, the animals that we made, they didn't really agree with the physics of cages disappearing, so we ended up with a lot of things like this. That's the little elephant having a hard time. And we ended up with things like this, which was my favourite. This was Rory the lion having an equally hard time. But you know, they're free. They are free of the cages. You know, you can't say that we didn't achieve that. And it was fine. We actually won the game jam with this as well. So I'm not sure what that says really, but that was pretty good and satisfying. So, are we going to come back to this now? Yes, we are, I hope. So, I would say about Unity that it's not as beginner friendly as the other tools. I actually work for Unity now, so this is an unbiased opinion, I promise. But it is very good, and if you're interested in game development and you've tried the other tools and you want to take it a step further, Unity is definitely worth giving a go, just because it's very there's a lot of good resources around about it. So let's take a look again at those barriers that stopped me from wanting to make games. I thought I wasn't game developer material, but I've made a bunch of games. I thought I didn't have anything important to say or anything interesting to make games about. But I made games about eating soup and being a janitor and rescuing animals from the zoo, and that was fine. You all laughed, so whatever. The main big question, I suppose, at this point is why make anything at all if it's just going to be rubbish, right? And I think it's a valid question. It's a question that gets asked a lot. And I think that there's the most cliched or the most obvious reason that people say is that, oh, if you make loads of things that are rubbish, you can use what you've learned to make something good. Now, with all respect to people, the well-intended people who say that, I think that's bollocks. And I think it devalues the rubbish games that we all have the potential to make. The real reason to make rubbish things is that making things is fun. It's good fun to just do stuff. It doesn't have to be perfect, it doesn't have to be good at all, actually. When you accept that something you make is not going to be perfect, you're you're removing the stress from the process. You're making it more about the process than the result. And also, I think making things that are rubbish every so often, this is the most important thing for me, it detaches your personal self-worth from the things that you create. I think we all have a habit of tying in what we perceive to be creative failings into our personal failings. And we think, well, I can't make this perfect, and so therefore there's no point in me doing anything at all. What's the point? And that's not healthy. That's not conducive to a fun, creative life. I think one of the better comparisons to make is with music, and especially with punk music. Punk music has been used to talk about some pretty heavy stuff and to address some really, really important issues, but there are also punk songs about cats and haircuts and cereal, and none of those songs are any less valuable or any less entertaining. They're certainly not less entertaining to make. I imagine it's probably more fun to write a song about cats than it is to write a song about Thatcher. And part of the joy of punk and part of the point of punk, is the fun and the freedom and the expression and the right to just make noise because you want to make stuff and it's fun to do that, and so why not do that? And I think that we should introduce that into games more and into our own creative processes more. I didn't show you the games that I showed you today because I wanted you to see look at the rubbish games I made and look at how much better a developer I am now. I showed you those games because I love those games. I think they're brilliant. You all laughed, like I say, people find them entertaining. Most of all, I find them entertaining. So that's really all that matters. It doesn't have to be perfect or important. I'm really proud of all of those games that I made. Now, my other aim with this talk was to encourage everybody to go and pick up a tool that they've never used before and make a game with it. It doesn't matter if you think that is beneath, that tool is below your skill level. I don't know who here is developers and who's not, but what I would recommend, or what I would love it, obviously this is optional, I'm not going to put you in detention, but to go to flipgame.org, which is the Eat Soup tool, make a flip game, and you can share it immediately, just hit share, and send it to me at Siobhan Gx. I really want to play all of your shit rubbish games for the same reason I want to listen to punk songs about cats. Thank you.